I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Love Letters. Love Letters are a collection of love story of people get lost, get crazy, and disoriented in the name of love. And today I have my special guest. Well, he is my always guest, Miss Karen Deluxe. Welcome to Love Letters, Miss Karen, and can you please introduce yourself?
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Daniel, for having me on. This is a great topic. I love this topic. I am a person in love and have had a great long term, wonderful marriage. And I want to share with your audience how that is possible even in old age.
Yes, yes. And well, Miss Karen, thank you so much for sharing your stories to us. I hope your story will echoes to our listeners. So, what is the true meaning of love?
I think that that is a amazingly deep question, and for me, love is, it's certainly a feeling, but it's more than a feeling. It's a connection that is just so deep. Especially, I'm not just a wife, I'm a mother and grandmother. And when you have these deep connections and relationships, it just makes life so fulfilled and you know it. I remember thinking when I was young, how do you know when you're in love? How do you know? And adults would say, oh, you'll know it when it's real. And you keep thinking, is this love? Is this love? And it can be confusing. And what is love? And it's true, there is something that is even supernatural about a true connection with another human being that goes deeper than just the way it feels. It's where you really want the best for them, even if it's not you. And that is a hard thing for us as humans to really have that kind of love. And because I'm a believer, I really believe God is the author of love. And I know for me, I was a divorcee with two little boys, a single mom, and really brokenhearted because I was totally committed to my first marriage. But when I ended up meeting my husband now, we were friends for a long time. And I knew that I had fallen in love with him, but I didn't know if we were going to have a marriage or not. I just loved him for the person that he was, and I honestly wanted only good things for him. I wanted his life to be full of joy because I knew a lot about him, that he had had a really hard childhood. He did not have an easy time of it, and uh, he bore that sadness and had a lot of scars, if you would, from having had a very abusive childhood. And I know there's a lot of people maybe that are listening even now that have had a difficult time in one way or another, emotionally, mentally, physically, sexually abused in their childhood. And it's hard to think, wow, am I ever going to have a successful adult life with getting past these hard wounds? And I'm here to tell you that yes, you can. You can have a life that's rich and full, and not full of the trauma and the pain of the trauma from childhood. So I've watched this amazing man that now we've been married for almost 33 years. He helped me raise my two sons, and we had a son and a daughter together. And now we have grandchildren and another one on the way. So I'm here to tell you that it is so possible, no matter what you've gone through, no matter how hard relationships have been for you or been in the past, there is a lot of hope to have a future with someone who's committed to you as much as you're committed to them, and have fun. One of the keys for me and my husband is a sense of humor.
Oh, yes.
Being able to laugh is
Yes,
important.
definitely. So, Miss Karen, how do you know when you're truly in love with someone?
I think, as I was just saying, it's when you want more for them that maybe they even want for themselves. You know, I used to joke with my husband, "I like you better than you do." That is the kind of love that, that you want to, that is sacrificial in the sense that, wow, you really want their life to go well. And of course, your hope and prayer is that they want the same thing for you, right? That's when it
Yes.
works and it's reciprocated. And so it's a feeling, yes, because I think that we are human. We have feelings. We want to have deep feelings for the person that we're romantic with. And for women, it's even more so. We're emotional. We're more emotional than men. We get those deep connections. We want those deep connections. And it may be more difficult for men to express that desire than it is for women. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too generalized. Maybe your generation is better at that than my generation was.
Your generation, for sure. So, how does love evolve over time in a long-term relationship, as you experience?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question because it's true. It does. It does change. And when you're young and passionate and excited, you think, "Oh, this is gonna last forever just like this." And you can't imagine things better. But when it changes, it can be quite shocking because now, life gets busy. You're both working, or children come, or trials and tribulations. They say by that year 7, you've experienced a wide range of experiences in your marriage, whether you've had maybe the loss of a parent, or you've experienced that kind of grief, one or the other of you, or both even. You've experienced job changes, or financial circumstance changes, or health changes. And having your relationship kind of being able to successfully hurdle those challenges has a lot to do with the ability you have to communicate your feelings, how they change. So when all of us have these life experiences and then add children to the mix, and it can be shocking when you've just had this wonderful romantic honeymoon years, and now these difficult things up and come in, and they challenge the ability you have to stay truthful and honest and open with each other. But that's really, really important. And like I said, for us, having a sense of humor, being able to laugh at the trials and tribulations, laugh. I know for my husband and I, one of our successful ways to connect through these difficult times is to take a walk. We have our nighttime walk, and we connect with what's gone on in each other's lives, with work or family, whatever's going on, to be able to communicate. And sometimes it takes some of the edge off if you're walking side by side. I know they say, "Oh, look into each other's eyes," but sometimes that's a hard way to really communicate if you're struggling with your emotions. Looking somebody in the eyes can be very intimidating, or they get emotional, you get emotional, and sometimes walking and just being side by side rather than facing it. Okay, how do we get through this? Dealing with money, dealing with family members, dealing with children. So all of these challenges can test our relationships and our love for each other. But the reality is, Daniel, that they also can make your relationship deeper. When you go through things together and
Yes.
you manage, nobody leaves. Nobody decides to leave. You're
Yeah.
better off. You find that your relationship is deeper and better. And I can honestly say that my husband and I, in our 70s, married over 30 years, we're having the time of our lives. We've weathered all those kinds of storms and communication gaps and financial difficulties, health difficulties, children difficulties. And now that our children are raised, we've had, career ups and downs. We've really found more joy than we've ever known before. And I really felt like this was an important thing for your listeners to hear,
Yes.
especially since we're our children's best example of what a long-term relationship can look like. You know, they our children often tell us, "Gosh, you're practically the only one of my friends' circle whose parents are still together." And that's a really sad thing when so many people have experienced divorce or um, even remarriage with their parents or maybe death or the loss of a parent. It makes it hard to see, wow, can relationships really last? And I want to tell you, they can last and be better. So your question about changing, how do relationships change? I want to say they change and they're better. I know you can't believe that when you see a couple of old people walking hand in hand, but I'm telling you, if it's a good relationship, the passion doesn't go away. It changes, but it doesn't go away. And the intimacy and the fun and the depth of your commitment and connection is becomes the
Strong.
most important thing that you have.
Very well said, Miss Karen. Very well said and inspiring. Very, very
Thank you.
inspiring. So, how did you balance loving others with maintaining self love and personal boundaries?
You know, it's not that's not an easy question because most of us either we have very controlling, too stiff and too high a wall of boundaries, or not enough boundaries. So I think that part of the boundary building is part of maturing. We don't want to be our hearts so closed off that we can't let anybody in, but we also don't want to just trample all over everybody's feelings because I've got to say my piece and I'm not thinking about how it makes you feel. You know, we had to find out early on, and I think one of the keys to this is how well do you get through fights if you have disagreements or arguments? How do you resolve them? Do they just go unresolved and you just try to cool off, or how do you deal with those kinds of challenges? We learned early on, I had to say, okay, you're not allowed when we're fighting to say I should have married somebody else. That's just, you create these little no sentences. You're not allowed to say this. Now you don't put that boundary on when you're arguing. That has to be something you talk about when you're reconciling, or those words really hurt me, so I don't really want you to say those words anymore. And I think that's a safe way to create boundaries that are this you cross this boundary and you're hurting my heart really deep. So if you don't want to hurt my heart, don't say that, because your words are powerful. Words are very, very powerful, and you need to be loving with the way you talk to each other. Even when you're disagreeing or you're having an argument, it's important you watch what you say. And I know some people are really, really good about that. And some of us, have to learn how to mature in that.
Maturity. So, what role does communication play in expressing love and deepening relationships?
I'm sure you're familiar since you're doing this love channel about the love languages. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. That different people speak differences in love languages. Like, does giving gifts, really, really minister to your partner? I think it's important that you learn what their love language is, what makes them happy. We had a couple that taught us this at a marriage seminar, and she said, for me, it's all about affection, and so when my husband come through the door, I would race to the door and give him a big hug and kiss and just, say all this stuff. And he's like, "Where's my, pipe and slippers," kind of thing. For him, his love language was acts of service. So for him, when he was going to celebrate his wife's birthday, he pops up early in the morning to go make a nice breakfast with the flour and bring her breakfast in bed when she just wanted him to stay and snuggle, right? So they were miscommunicating. They weren't feeling love. They weren't feeling loved because they weren't speaking the language of their partner. So when she realized that, then she didn't any longer expect love and affection when he's just getting off of work. His mind is just trying to rest from putting out all day. He just wanted to rest, have a paper, slippers, and maybe a beer or maybe a cup of tea or cup of coffee, whatever, and just relax before he could connect with her in the way that she wanted to be connected. And then he learned, don't pop up and make her breakfast in bed. She wants to snuggle. She wants to feel affection. And that, I think, is a real key to communication relationships. What speaks love to them? For me, I loved when my husband writes love notes to me. He's a writer, so his way of communicating verbally or in notes, always I keep them. I read them again. They minister to me so beautifully. So sometimes I don't care. You don't have a lot of money to spend on me. Gifts aren't the way that I need to know. I love the words that we speak. When you speak your words of love and you make comparisons and you talk about our life, just as precious to me. So it's important to know your own love language, but it's more important to know your
Mm,
partner's love language.
yes, I agree with you, Miss Karen. So, how can couples keep love alive when faced with challenges and hardships?
It's you gotta pull together. I talked to this young couple, and they were having separate, bank accounts. They both had jobs, they had separate bank accounts, your bills, my bills, and they would argue about this all the time. I'm like, "You know what? That's not a long-term trust. If you're gonna have a home together and buy vehicles together and raise children together, I think it needs to be the family pot. This is our family. This is where we save for our future together and not keeping things and secrets from each other unless it's a surprise for someone's birthday or Christmas. Other than that, trying not to have secrets that any part of your heart or mind that you're keeping from your partner is not going to give you that depth of trust and commitment. Now, when a partnership has had a breach of trust, that is something you should get help with. If someone has in some way broken trust with the other, then you need to get some mentoring, some therapy to help build that bridge back. And there has to be more transparency and honesty. And that's a building process. That's not something most of us can do right out of the gate. We're learning to trust. We're learning how to build this loving home. Our house is pink with flowers, and it's 214, and 214 is Valentine's Day. So our house is called the Valentine House. It's pink with flowers, and love live here. Love lives here. We've always had an open home, and our children are used to people being in and out. We have our own fellowship called Imagine Gathering with artists and musicians and singers and dancers, and so we've had a really kind of household where we invite love to live. So is you have a desire to be loved and to have your partner love you, then you have to be willing to be transparent and and take those steps of love to show them how you feel about them.
Yes, again, Miss Karen, very well said, and thank you. So inspiring. So, how does love influence our decision making and behavior in life?
Mm. That is really good to ask that, because if we're not living our lives with love as a consideration, then I think we're going to have difficulties in our relationships. If we put work first, if we put others before our partner, if they're not number one in our hearts after God, then I think your relationship's going to struggle because they're gonna know it. if you're saying, "I don't have time, to be or to go or to do things with you because of work or because maybe the children or the family has all your attention and energy," then I think you need to step back, take a walk, and say, "How can we prioritize our relationship?" Because as the marriage goes, as the relationship goes, so goes the family, and it's worth it. I mean, they say that people on their deathbed never say, "Gosh, I wish I'd spent more time at the office." They're always going to say, "I wish I'd spent more time with my family." And that can be very difficult, especially if you have people working hard to build a business or they're in school. School can take a lot of time and energy. And maybe, we're making choices at first to say, "I've got to focus on this and I don't really have time to develop a relationship." And I think that's fair and that's important. Or in the seasons and shifts of a long-term relationship, okay, I'm going to go to school and you're going to work, or then you're going to go to school and I'm going to work, and then we'll have time to work on our relationship. Just keeping those lines of communication open to being honest, where if one is feeling neglected, then we need to step back at least for, make sure we have date night, or what do we need to nurture our relationship so that when whatever success happens with business or we're still here together.
Yes. So, what is the role of forgiveness in love, and how does it help relationships heal and grow?
It's huge. We think of forgiveness as a feeling, just like we think of love as a feeling, and we want feelings because when someone has hurt us, deeply hurt us, and betrayed us in some way or broken trust with us in some way, those hurts need to be addressed with the partner being so sorrowful and feeling your pain, to be honest and I made a mistake and I'm very sorry. Can you forgive me? When someone asks you to forgive, then you have the choice. Do I forgive them? And that choice isn't necessarily the way you may not feel very forgiving when you're choosing to forgive. But I promise that if you choose to forgive someone and really lay down your hurt and wound and your right to be offended, your right to be hurt, it'll keep you lonely at night being so right and feeling so separated for someone who is humbly asking you to forgive them. Because guess what? There may be a time when you have to ask them to forgive you, and you want that same grace extended. "I'm so sorry. I made a big mistake. I didn't mean to make you feel that way, and I'm sorry I hurt you," or "Wow, I shouldn't have spent that money," or whatever it is, whatever mistakes we make, you want that same grace, that you be forgiven when you make mistakes, because the truth is, we are all human. We are all going to make mistakes. And as the Lord's prayer says, forgive others as you want to be forgiven. So think about that when you feel that wall of bitterness or hurt or anger. Do I, this is what I want my life to be? It's a very lonely place to be holding on to unforgiveness and holding on and letting it fester and become bitter and angry. And you can usually hear it in people's voices. You can hear them when they talk about it. They either lump all men together in the category or all women together in the category. And they just, their words, you can hear the bitterness. That's somebody that has not successfully or completely forgiven. And it can make you sick. It can make you physically sick, not just emotionally. It can really ruin your health, unforgiveness.
For sure. So, Miss Karen, to sum up what we are talking about, what are the signs of a healthy, loving relationship versus a toxic one?
Well, you're right. I mean, bringing up the forgiveness factor is huge, but I think I know from my husband and I, sense of humor. It's what drew me to him from the start. This is a man that can turn, you know, rough situations and have fun with it and have a sense of humor. It is a huge factor, I think, in forever happiness. Can you find a way to laugh about it? They say that humor is tragedy plus time. Has it, that's why I say, nope, too soon. I'm not ready to laugh about it. So you can say, all right, too soon. But
Yes, yeah.
after this, you've cleaned up the spilt milk or whatever it is, laugh about it. Create, memories that recover from whatever mistakes or hardships that we overcome. Find a way to laugh together, and you'll have a good time. And I promise you, when you're having a loving romantic relationship in your 70s, you better have a good sense of humor.
Definitely. Definitely. So, Miss Karen, thank you so much for your inspiring words for all those loved ones or those who are listening to us. Thank you so much. I hope they inspired to get better, to get be the best to handle the relationship. And again, people, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you will continue listening to Love Letters. So, Miss Karen, can you please invite our listeners to support all your projects, your books, or whatever you want to promote?
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I encourage you to get creativewithkaren.com. I'm an artist, an art teacher, and I love to show people the healing power of art and how you can have wellness through creativity and help you stir up your own creative giftings, whatever they are. So go to www.getcreativewithkaren.com. I've got a free podcast that talks about creativity and the fullness and fulfillment that you can have through being creative in various ways, even taking walks, just like my husband and I do. So connect
Yes.
with me, getcreativewithkaren.com.
We salute you, Miss Karen Delots, for having a fruitful marriage. And catch you next week, another time. More to come, people. See you soon. So, Miss Karen, are you available next week? Will you be my guest again, Love Letters?